Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's installment of the Kubernetes SIG Contributor Experience weekly meeting. I'll be your host for half this meeting today. So I'm going to drop out midway, and then Bob will carry us to the rest of the meeting. Speaking of Bob, Kubernetes Zoom has just joined. I'll just make co-host right there. I'll make host, co-host. So yeah, just a bit of housekeeping before we begin. As usual, we abide by a code of conduct, which in short just means be excellent to each other. And with that out of the way, yeah, so usually now we'll do introductions, but I think everyone on the line at the moment, we all know each other. So it's good to see all of y'all again, which means let's just dive right into the agenda. So
One quick thing, Deb said she would not be able to make it for the first 25 minutes or so.
Oh, guys. So yeah, let's get this kicked off. Office hours, any updates on office hours? Okay.
Where are we with the streaming platform?
Ihor, were you able to log in?
I haven't tried yet, but thanks for a reminder. I'll do it.
Essentially, once it's paid for, we'll be good to go.
Yeah, so the problem is, is there any way how someone can log in there without actually creating an account? Like, can I pass my credentials to someone else to fill out the finance data, for example?
So what ends up happening is they will send an email with a passcode that you use to log in.
Mm-hmm.
You can pass that passcode on to someone else to log in. But it essentially that's the way their system works. We currently have it set up so it's mapped to the stream-team at kubernetes.io address.
Got it. Yep. Yeah, let me take a look and I'll get back to you on this.
Yeah.
And thank you for reminding.
If you want to, I can talk you through it later.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Could be even easier.
Cool beans. Next up, we have the community meeting. Laura.
All right. Josh hosted, and thank you so much for this past month. And we've been working on updating the hosting guide. There's also an open PR for the update to the website now that we have the new format kind of rolling. So that PR is open. Anything else I'm forgetting, Josh?
Well, a couple of things. I did some work on updating the guide to running one to bring it more into accord with the current one, but there's a lot that needs to be added to the prep section. And I'm a little concerned that we're back to putting a huge amount of work on the hosts.
Right.
Because without having any definite place to go to find topics for the community meeting, it means that we're really counting on somebody to be kind of connected through the community. So it might be worth thinking about how we get away from that requirement. Or we're going to run into the problem where at some point we can't have a community meeting because we don't have any qualified hosts.
Right.
The other question that I have is, since I was sharing my screen, I couldn't see how many people were tuned in. Did someone get a count?
I think it was around 30.
Okay. So then we kind of need to think about that, because we really did a publicity blitz with contributor comms on that community meeting.
Mm-hmm.
30 does not sound like a great turnout. And particularly, we had 3 discussion topics that were things that were currently in progress in the community. And people presented on those, but we didn't really get questions. So I'm wondering if our experiment with the new format and everything is a success or not.
Yeah. Honestly, I think it's hard right now just to get people to go to another meeting that they think that they can reasonably skip.
Yeah.
Well, that, like it or not, I think that's just the sort of that plus no calendar invite, I think is what's leading to the low attendance numbers. I still
Sorry.
think I think the community meeting is still very much worthwhile, and it's a good thing to have. I just I don't know what else we can do to try and solve it.
I think part of everything, the 2 questions really are tied together to me about the hosts needing to be majorly plugged in and the not really being able to get people there. To me, that's kind of tied together, because if the host doesn't really, the host needs to be doing a ton of work to even get people to know what's happening and explain why it's important. And I don't know that we're really able to do that. It's like a chicken and egg problem, right? Well, we need people to understand that it's important, but then the host needs to be plugged in and talking about it a ton. But then the host has trouble finding things because they don't know what's going on. And I don't know. I guess I'm kind of curious. Do y'all think that we should try this one more month, or should we go back to the drawing board and see if there's a better option? Because right now, I know at least in the US, some places are opening up more, but outside of the US, it's not necessarily opening up more. So it feels like, will it get any better with the burnout that people are feeling around meetings?
Also in the US, where it's opening up more, a lot of people are starting to catch up on their trips that they haven't taken in a year. So
Also
they're out
true.
because of that. So
Also true.
Yeah, I think realistically, it'll probably be a whole nother year before the burnout and people just feel like they can return to a state of normalcy. I think the first thing that we should try and solve is the calendar invite, but that is also going to mean a big shift for Kubernetes dev.
Yeah, and that is also the other possibility with the attendance, is that we really can't expect substantial attendance until we fix the calendar invite. Because I know I live by my calendar. I just got my conference this morning because they forgot to send me a calendar invite for my actual session. And I'm like, you need to send that to me, because you're in a different time zone from me, and I'm not going to know when it is otherwise.
I actually talked to someone else that had no idea the community meetings had started back up again, because they, even though we tell people that they need to subscribe to KDev, and KDev should be the most important, that is our communication channel. That's not necessarily something that people still, it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, do we want to kind of swing back to this as a longer discussion later in the meeting about how to deal with that problem versus taking that up here at the beginning of the call?
I would actually probably still push this right now, just because when Deb hops on, the conversation is going to pivot to the contributor summit.
Gotcha. Okay. Sounds good. Then
sorry,
we'll No. It makes sense. We can wait. So.
Or we can continue to discuss it now. Just like I with Deb popping on later, we'll wind up discussing the contributor summit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm almost wondering if it would be, since the contributor summit kind of is the flagship event that everybody knows about, would it be better to tie in the, hey, we're rebooting the community meeting to that, where people then start hearing about it, because then they will get all caught up at once, instead of us constantly saying, having people coming into the channel and saying, hey, there's no invite, and then we have to explain it again and again and again every single month, it feels like.
Well, I think this just means that we need to actually move forward with a plan to migrate KDEV to a managed Kubernetes.io address. And there's going to be a lot of toil involved with that one. Just with the amount of KDEV's sort of like presence in all the docs and the community and everything. The other fact that, like, you know, we can't export members right now.
You know, I think from an awareness perspective, we might actually want to open a KEP for that, because it's going to be a major effort. It's potentially going to mess with a lot of people. So
if there are a lot of relatively, I don't know if minor is the right word, but doc updates that need to happen, maybe it's something that we could engage newer contributors on and have them help with, because I know good first issues and things that are suitable for newer contributors to work on are always in demand. Maybe that's one way we could try to get some of that broad work done.
That's not a bad idea.
yeah, well, and for things like the doc updates, we could even have
our own Hacktoberfest.
Yeah, basically a hack day where we try to
bash
update
day.
all of the docs everywhere that refer to KDEV. I'm more concerned about things like group membership that might be more subtle, particularly, for example, all the Google Docs that we have that are accessible based on whether or not you're in KDEV.
Yeah.
Which, you know, ultimately we're not going to, in fact, know what all of those docs are, because some of them will have been created by individuals.
I think, like, there's not going to be a reasonable way to solve that specific problem. You know, we can target, like, we can send comms to all the SIGs and things like that to, like, hey, you know, this needs to be changed over. But all the old stuff, it might just be that, like, if someone can't access it, it means that we need to copy it and dump it in a place that, you know, is owned by someone that's still active and can update that sort of thing.
Would the managed KDEV account actually be able to own docs? Because that might be actually a really good thing as people move around, change companies, etc.
So technically it can't.
Okay. Bugger. That would have been nice.
Well, I should say it's complicated.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
You will be able to share docs with it, but it will not be able to own docs directly.
Gotcha. Okay.
Either way, I think it's time to actually create an issue and start talking through all the process and things that will need to be changed to do this migration.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it makes sense, and that's it for the community meeting for me.
Sounds good. Next we have contributor summits. Bob.
That one we should punt until later when Deb gets back.
Okay, and I imagine Deb's going to be here pretty soon.
Yep, and 5 to 10 minutes.
5 to 10 minutes. Okay. So next on the agenda, we have steering election in square brackets.
Which really the next step is I need to get Electo properly packaged up so we can run it on Kubernetes owned infrastructure.
It's currently run on CNCF infrastructure, right?
No, it's actually currently running on a Google Cloud instance that's on my personal account.
Oh,
So that's and not properly packaged for deployment on Kubernetes at all. So I need to actually finish doing that. Election will start in September, like usual. Yeah.
yep.
Okay. Do we need to do anything in the way of announcing to people to think about whether or not they want to run for steering committee?
Probably not quite yet, but maybe at maybe towards the like later part of July.
Okay. Everything else is pretty mechanical since we don't have to send an email out. We just have to pull the list of contributors from DevStats. Oh, I'm going to hit you up once we actually get this package up. I'll have to hit you up, Bob, because we'll need to link an instance of Electo to the community repo, I guess. Community repo is where all the election info is going to keep living. Yes.
Yep.
But that's actually pretty simple. It's just some YAML files in a webhook.
So much easier.
That was the whole goal. That was the entire goal. And
Ihor?
Yeah, Josh, a quick question about the infra. We can host it on Equinix Metal CNCF cluster. If this works for you, we can work on this. Probably it will be way easier than to host it on Google Cloud, Amazon, or elsewhere.
Okay, I was just going to host it, give it to Test Infra for their cluster, but I mean, it's honestly a very small application. It does not need its own dedicated nodes in any way.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing is that we want to put it somewhere where the database is going to be reliably persistent, so that we don't lose the database between elections.
Yeah, so as Bob is suggesting, we can use the KC infra resources for this. If if we want to put on Kubernetes owned infrastructure specifically, or as an alternative, we can host it on the CNCF cluster of services. So whatever before.
Yeah. Bob was asking about a managed MySQL instance. That is actually how we're running it now. That's the reason why we put it on Google Cloud, so that it would be running the way that Infra already said they wanted it to run. I hopefully have a way to pay for that, because I've discovered that even a little tiny database on Google's database service is about $75 a month. If we already have a MySQL database running somewhere, this could actually be shared. Again, the system demands are not huge, but that might be more trouble than it's worth.
Within Kubernetes, I don't think we do.
Okay.
But that isn't too much compared to like the rest of our GCP bill.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's based on SQL Alchemy, so we can use any SQL database backend, but the problem doesn't really change. Anyway, that's more of an infra discussion. And mostly it's the packaging. We based the container on it from one of the Python containers that turned out to be a bad choice, so I have to actually rebuild it based on a more maintained Python container.
Alrighty. Next we have I think we already checked the streaming, the mentoring, meet our contributors. Sorry. As far as I can remember, meet our contributors are semi-blocked on us getting the StreamYard and all that set up because it's easier for us to do the meet our contributors over StreamYard than it is to have someone have OBS set up and then streaming with Zoom on top of that. That's a lot of overhead. So we haven't done that in a while, as well as calendar issues with that.
Well, StreamYard should hopefully be solved soon. The one thing I think, at least for July, was that it clashes with the US holiday.
So yeah, that's pretty much it for Meet Our Contributors. Which brings us next to Playground, GSOC, Outreachy, LFX, Ehor. Any updates?
No major updates. Google's Summer of Code is in progress. LFX mentoring is in progress, and no major news around this. We'll have the next time like major milestones in a couple of weeks. So until then, mentees are working on their assignments.
Cool beans. And then now we have new contributor workshop. So I tidied up that PR, updated one of those PRs this morning, the one where it updates the community repo with a bunch of guides on how to record and update and all the bells and whistles of things going on with it. It's taken quite a while for me to get that in. And next, need to update the website PR so that there isn't a contributing markdown file, so it doesn't appear in the website. That's it from me so far on that front. So I gotta bop off very soon. So Bob, over to you, and I'll make you host.
Okay. Thank you, Allison.
No worries.
And can follow up later.
Ciao, buddies.
So was there any other mentoring comments, Ehor? I think we're ready to just go into community management.
No comments from me.
Okay. So on the community management side of things, I guess one of the big things we will want to communicate at some point is the potential KDEV migration and the planning involved with that. We actually want to, I was talking over with like Christoph, Nikita, and Allison. For ContribEx, we want to test switching everything over to Kubernetes.io managed addresses. So that might be the first step in this entire list, is that we sort of dog food this migration a bit. Sorry, I completely I lost my train of thought for a sec. I had something I want to say, but the other thing is coming up. There's going to be a lot of various little small stuff for all the SIGs. This is follow-ups from the annual reports and some of the like various governance and other little issues that they were all having. So the collective ContribEx, we will probably get pinged much more soon to help people with like solving some little things like the YouTube uploads, getting some meetings scheduled and all that. So it's no immediate like actionable items there. but that will probably wind up happening soon. Sorry. Does anyone else have any other sort of community management related thoughts or items they want to talk about?
Yeah, I just wanted to briefly say community survey. We haven't done, the survey's long been closed. We haven't done anything with the data.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and throw some graphs together. But if there is somebody who is particularly interested in poking into that data and looking for things, please hit me up via Slack, because otherwise I'm just going to generate a bunch of fairly generic graphs based on what we had before, since I'm not looking for any particular answers.
One thing, if you don't mind, could you export all the raw data to like a CSV, just so we can put it into the ContribEx has a private folder with all the past survey raw results.
Okay. I mean, I can also do a PII scrubbed version if we want to have a version that we can share.
We wind up doing both.
Okay.
Because we will actually merge in the scrubbed version results into K community.
Okay. Yep. Okay, we'll do. And Deb is here.
Yep. Before we, thanks for hopping in, Deb. But before we jump back to the contributor summit, do we want to sort of like go through the other remaining item, like other stuff quick?
That sounds good to me.
Okay. So on the DevStat side, there will be, I think within like the next 2 weeks, we'll be able to filter a bunch of stuff by SIG and working group label, which has been a blocker for trying to get like better stats list stuff in the past. I can link a PR, or sorry, not PR, an issue with the details after the meeting. Does anyone have any other like DevStats comments or questions?
Just that's exciting. Yay. Oh.
Cool. Marketing, Caslin, do you have any updates?
It was nice to get to work with the community monthly meeting. We've seen a few requests coming in through Slack recently, which has been nice. So we've been spending a lot of our time in our meetings talking about process and the limitations in our current processes and things we need to do to make our work easier and more visible and help to enable more people. So we're having a lot of conversations there and trying to work on some new process guidance for our own group. Thought I would share that. Oh, and at the monthly community meeting, Savita from the release team heard about what we were doing and joined our meeting on that Friday and wanted to talk to us a little bit about kind of connections between our team and the release team, which is something that we've been trying to work on and make stronger. So that was really nice to see. And she was very interested in helping us get connected and build some better processes to connect the two teams. So that's exciting.
Yeah, that is great. That's communicating the release milestones and deadlines is like one of the hard, like biggest issues we have, and should be a big win. Any questions, comments from marketing? Okay. Contributor docs. I don't have any updates at this time. The one thing for the contributor site, there's sort of two sort of open working things. One, is a WIP preview of listing the enhancements on the page. And some work is being done there to get that like in a nice presentable state. And then my apologies again if I keep I put to that, but you've been working on the getting the ingestion stuff sorted out.
Yep.
Do you just want to tell folks like what you've been working on?
Yeah, sure. So like what I have for the script right now is that you can specify in YAML the repository URL, and then it will just go through that repository, clone it, and right now it'll just like copy the files you specify in the YAML from the clone repository to a new repository. But the part I'm stuck on is like what to do with the links. So that is what I was hoping.
Yeah, the link processing itself is a whole can of worms. Definitely I think the first step is sort of like what we were talking about in Slack, is just like being able to detect the links in the files, and so that way like and I know like I think Goldmark is one of the libraries. There's a couple other libraries out there that I think can actually detect the links with their parser, which should hopefully be able to like make it easier to pick that stuff up. And since they're the libraries for already rendering Markdown, they know not to pick up the ones that are like in code blocks.
But like, how is it currently being done? If the bash script uses regex, so
it does use no worries. It does use regexes, but the reason why it hasn't run into any issues right now is because we haven't imported content that has URLs in code blocks. That's the only reason why it's like not an issue right now.
Okay, so I guess like the next step should be looking for libraries which can pass links in Markdown.
Yep. If anyone has any experience with that sort of thing, like with Go and like Markdown link detection, and I think there's a few other linters out there, that would be super useful.
I might have something in my backlog somewhere on that. Give me a little bit and I'll look for it.
I'll ping you in the Slack thread Bob and I are on. So yeah,
that would be perfect. That way I remember, because I will forget unless I write it down somewhere. So
sure. So just to understand what the goal exactly is right now, the only remaining step is that we are able to search for the links and replace them, right? And then we would be good to go, or is there something else also?
That's pretty much it. It is being able to find the links and then swap them out with the correct ones, and drop the files in the right location in the contributor site repo. And yeah, which that it already does. So that should be it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Any questions, comments about contributor docs or the contributor site? Okay. GitHub management. The one upcoming thing, there's an issue in K community or K org for it, is the easy CLA migration. The original time frame for this, we were going to try and do it after code freeze, but there's been some just general communication issues. So at this point, it's probably too little time before code freeze to properly communicate this change and test it properly. So I'm not sure about the next date. I think we talked about a potential backup date previously, but I haven't gone through like our logs here to sort it out. Either way, it's still in the works, but not going to happen right after code freeze. Any questions, comments for GitHub management? Okay. Nothing for Slack info that I know of. Anyone have any Slack info stuff to talk about?
No, fortunately, it's been very unexciting lately.
Yeah, thankfully. And that will take us back to contributor summits. Deb.
Hi. Sorry I had to join the meeting late. I just wanted to see if we were able to finalize the graphics or what way we were leaning on the graphics from the vote last week. Were we able to figure that out in SurveyMonkey, Josh?
I don't know if Ihor sent in the support request. I don't know if he's gotten a response yet. I can't send in support requests because it's the CNCF account. Ihor? The problem, by the way, is that the survey results refer to the images by number, but the images are not numbered anywhere else. And so I have to actually guess which image won, which, then why have the survey in the first place?
Yeah. So can we just have someone vote for one and kind of?
Yeah, we can do that. I was hoping that Ihor got a support response from SurveyMonkey support. Usually they're on top of things.
Okay.
If I had to take my ballpark guess, was it the palm tree one?
I don't know because of this problem.
That's right, because of the problem. Like
it is the classic surrogate key problem.
Yeah.
So if
it's
we have a clear winner, if we know which graphic it was, like, is there one that came out above the others currently?
Well, that's the problem, is that when we're looking at the results, there's only numbers, no image, and you can't correlate the two, right?
I think her question is, sorry, Deb.
Sorry, is there a number that is currently in the lead? Like image 2, when we figure out image 2 has the most votes.
Like from a pure number standpoint, is there anyone that is a clear leader?
Even if we don't know what that leader looks like.
Yep.
Yeah.
If so, we could, just do the manual voting thing for that,
what we think
that one is, and see if it increments it.
Yeah.
Who has that?
And we can do that. Hopefully Ihor gets back from double meeting and he got a response from SurveyMonkey.
Okay.
So do we have a number winner?
Yeah, the number winner is pretty clearly 2. I just don't know which image 2 corresponds to.
Okay, well, I can pop in and vote for it as soon as this meeting's over, and then you can tell me which one, if number 2 went up by 1 or not. And then we have our answer.
Could take potentially 2 vote cycles to determine which one.
That's fine. I can vote. I like voting.
Ihor says he has not done an update for SurveyMonkey.
Okay. Perfect. So I can just do a vote after this and see what happens. Okay. And then do we have a timeline for when we want Reg to launch? As you hopefully heard, KubeCon Reg is now live.
I would probably aim, at this point, we should probably start scheduling a separate meeting and put the actual team together.
Okay.
What are other folks' thoughts on that?
That sounds reasonable.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just going to kind of throw that out there.
Yeah, but at this point, we need to start recruiting the full team outside of our usual standard suspects that just sort of our usual suspects that are there for helping with every single one of them. So I think that's the next big step. And then do the whatchamacallit to doodle to try and figure out an actual functional date. If I were to take a guess, I would say ideal time frame for Reg would be end of July, early August.
Okay. And do you need anything from me in order to start putting together the actual team that's going to work on this?
No, I think this is all on us to send the comms out and move from there.
Perfect. I'm assuming once that team gets together, we'll talk about what's happening in each of the room content wise and programming. So I'll save that question. And then my last update is we have the reception search in progress right now. There are limited options within walking distance, especially because we don't want people walking long distances in LA where one neighborhood may not be safe and the next is. But we're working on a venue search and I should have updates on that shortly for the reception.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. And then I will actually be at the venue in 2 weeks. And I will be taking a video of the space, kind of doing what I typically do, where I walk through and explain what rooms we have, how you get there, that whole thing. So I will share that as soon as I finish that. And that's all.
Thank you, Deb.
Yeah.
Wait, did you say what the results of the other survey were? The ones of people attending online versus in person?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, nothing's really changed since last week when we talked about it. We've got 20% say in person with whatever guidelines are in place. 26% said in person if my company's travel restrictions are listed. 18% said in person if international travel restrictions are lifted. So that is 245, almost 60% say they want the in person. And then 28% said they're going to attend virtually. 2% say they don't plan to attend this year.
Do you know what's the actual numbers behind those votes?
Yeah, so in person with whatever guidelines are in place is 24. In person, if my company's travel restrictions are listed, is 32. In person, if my international travel restrictions allow for it, is 22. So that is 78 people say in person pending their situations. And then virtually is 34 folks, and only 3 said no.
So if I were to take like a ballpark guess, maybe in the 300 range for attendance in person.
That's pretty close to what you had last year.
That sounds
high.
That sounds really high considering the weirdness of this fall.
Okay. Now, let's see. I was also thinking about the new contributor workshop too. So maybe more in like the 200 range.
Yeah, I think that's probably closer because I mean, you're probably looking about 3/4 of what you're used to. And then if you take away the new contributor workshop, a little bit less, so maybe 2/3 of what you're used to, which should be about 200.
Okay.
I'm less optimistic about international travel being a thing at that point.
Yeah.
But the so
has anyone's company lifted their travel restrictions yet or given a date for review?
So I can say Google has explicitly allowed KubeCon.
Okay, that's awesome.
For us, it is still individual exception requests.
Okay.
And I don't think they're going to reevaluate that until the beginning of August.
Okay.
The local little startups that I kind of talk with are all pretty much open right now. It's kind of a whatever you feel comfortable doing is the answer I've been getting. So that's the startup world anyway.
Things are looking better then. I mean, when we had this conversation 4 weeks ago, it was no one. So we're headed in the right direction, which is great. So that's all I have on Contributor Summit then.
Okay. Any other questions, comments for Contributor Summit?
That's about it. I would actually say if the division between in-person and online flips because of something like variants, COVID variants or whatever, Is there anything that we need to do to prepare for that possibility, or we just carry on, assuming the numbers that we have are correct?
Well, we have, we're planning for hybrid, which we'll talk about what hybrid looks like for you all as we start to have these conversations. So I think it would be an easy switch in that perspective in terms of content, because we're already planning that direction. The things that would change would be around like food and beverage, giveaways, items like that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not overly concerned about on the content side, just because we are planning more like to at least support hybrid.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay. Only about 10 minutes left. Is there any other outstanding items that people would like to talk about? Okay.
I can't think of anything.
Yep. I think with that, we can call it done for today. And I'll give you a couple minutes before your next meeting back.
Woot, woot.
Thank you, everyone.
Yay.
Bye.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.